The first time I shared my treasures was with Grant Rogers the night before our prom.
You couldn't wait till prom night like everybody else?
And Rinka, my fabulous dress.
Taming the feminine appetite, the lover's maligned on-screen depictions. The lover in us. While the four most prominent feminine archetypes, the queen, the mother, the sage, and the lover, are present in everyone, the lover is the archetype we can readily access with ease and inherently understand. Although she's usually portrayed as a horny vixen on screen, the most base and literal interpretation of the archetype, the lover is, at heart, well, a lover of life, of her friends, of pleasure, of money, of food, and most importantly, of herself. We feel her presence in our daily lives when we sustain deep eye contact with a friend, when a beautiful piece of art brings us to tears, when we smile at the memory of a passed away loved one. We are accessing the lover archetype energy. In goddess form as Aphrodite, Venus, Inanna, Radha, Oshun, and countless lover deities, she is venerated as the purest symbol of life itself, a figure both worthy of human praise and a goddess who freely gives affection to her devotees. But on screen, where she can be seen in Sex and the City's Samantha Jones, Insecure's Kelly Prenny, Golden Girls' Blanche Devereaux, Designing Women's Suzanne Sugarbaker, and Living Singles' Regine Hunter, she is more often maligned, her sexual appetite constantly mocked and dampened. Where ancient myth saw the lover as an enlightened spirit, lavishly giving and taking of life in many forms, popular culture has typically had a difficult time reckoning with her generous spirit and recognizing the gifts she brings, like the ability to be fully present and enjoy life as it is at any given moment.
Can they come party with us? Oh, I'm gonna put you to bed. You ever been burped?
What are the archetypes? All the shows mentioned make use of cultural archetypes we can all pretty easily identify: the queen, the mother, the sage, and the lover. Unlike stock characters or character tropes, archetypes don't only appear in scripted performances, but are deeply ingrained in our universal human culture. We see these women, queens, mothers, sages, and lovers, in every facet of our society, including art, religion, and politics. Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung developed the foundational writings about archetypes, calling them universal archaic images expressed in dreams, religious beliefs, myths, and fairy tales. This video is part 3 of a 4-part essay series exploring feminine archetypes on television. Watch parts 1 and 2 to learn more about the queen and the sage archetypes on screen. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when new videos post. Okay, back to archetypes. The 4 most recognizable feminine archetypes must work together, as together they represent core elements of one whole feminine psyche. We'll explore some of the deeper meanings, symbolism, and synergies between the lover archetype and her on-screen depictions, and what her malalignment really says about the feminine spirit. The lover's light.
I know it's been an awful long time since I've done this, and I'm sorry. You have given me a lot to be thankful for. My wonderful children, my health, a beautiful body, legs to die for. A face that is stunningly sexy and yet has the innocence of a child, with luscious lips that just
He
invite...
knows what you look like, Blanche.
Yes, you know what I look like, and I just want to say, good job.
On television, the lover archetype is vain, self-absorbed, often power-hungry, and intentionally situated as the least aspirational of the sitcom foursome. While these characteristics could all be indicative of the lover archetype or of her unfavorable shadow side, they reduce this dynamic force to simple comedic foils for the more respectable representations of the feminine that the queen, the sage, and especially the mother represent. The mother and the lover enjoy an entangled relationship in fiction as polar opposite depictions of feminine energy, even though they have a lot in common. They both represent the feminine capacity to love generously and for that love to be generative. In the case of the mother, love generates and nourishes children, literally or figuratively. The lover's affection is more ephemeral, generating connection, pleasure, and light. Radha, the Hindu goddess of love, tenderness, compassion, and devotion, was described as appearing like the light itself. Kim Kranz, author of the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck and guidebook, says the lover's energy is usually experienced for short periods of time, as in order to feel it, we must be fully present and awake, with no expectations or rules about what should be. Rather, the lover is in awe of what the world presents, reveling in the glorious details, grateful to savor every last drop of life's offerings. And there is an undeniable awe and light to the lover's on-screen depictions, no matter how much television creators try to convince us she isn't to be taken seriously. On Sex and the City, Samantha is arguably the most content of the four characters, and the friend most likely to bring a high-spirited and good-natured joy to every experience she has. Because she has chosen her life, not just accepted what was given to her or what was expected of her, and fervently believes that she deserves to live well, the lover truly revels in every day.
At my age, my mother was saddled with 3 kids and a drunk husband. You just have 3 drunk friends. By choice!
The lover's generosity. Oftentimes, the lover presents as primarily a way to grab a quick laugh from the audience. Blanche's fragile ego on Golden Girls, or Kelly's string of inappropriate sexcapades on Insecure more often break up the primary storyline, rather than drive the story arcs themselves.
If you were going to make me dinner, what would you... It's cheat day. It's cheat day, yeah. Thank you.
Unlike the sage, who often appears as the extremely self-aware wisecracker, the lover, and more specifically her sex life, tends to be the butt of the joke. This pattern says a lot about how we regard feminine sexuality and the desires of women, even on a relatively progressive and modern show like Insecure. The Golden Girls and Sex and the City are the only shows of the 5 we're referencing in this series that deal with the lover's sexual appetite in any substantive way. But even those developments are shallow at best and slut-shamey at their worst.
Blanche, have you heard the latest ad campaigns? Join the Navy, see the world, sleep with Blanche Devereaux. Join the army, be all you can be, and sleep with Blanche Devereaux. The Marines are looking for a few good men who have not slept with Blanche Devereaux.
Just what are you trying to imply?
Slut trash.
Now, girls, settle down before you say something you'll both regret.
While both shows mainly avoided the trope of explaining the lover's high sex drive as a cry for attention or as inherently unhealthy, Blanche and especially Samantha are still allowed to be othered and set apart from the more respectable and relatable archetypes their friends represent. Their sexuality is merely tolerated rather than exalted as a character-defining and inspiring trait. And there is much to be admired about the lover in her full, mature form. Throughout myths from across the globe, the lover has represented a generous and divine capacity for pleasure, vulnerability, and healing. In the tarot, the lover's card depicts a naked woman and man looking to the archangel Raphael. Raphael's name means God heals, and the couple represent masculine and feminine energy, signifying the duality in everyone and the ability to create harmony within ourselves as well as in our intimate relationships. Some interpretations of this card also include imagery representing the five senses, speaking to the lover's desire for a truly delicious life, delighting in food, sex, scents, and sensations. The lover's quest for self. So what should we take away from the lover archetype and how she's depicted on screen? Although her myth is lush and abundant, the dominant takeaway in the lover's on-screen depictions deals with lack and scarcity. Show creators choose to fixate on her as an autonomous sexual woman with an appetite for life and luxury that must be dampened and tamed. On Living Single, Regine's desire for wealth, success, and power in like a society that rewards wealth, success, and power isn't ever fully unpacked or considered a very reasonable response to her rough and tumble upbringing and the decadent, affluent 90s culture she finds herself in. While Max and Khadijah are rewarded for being self-centered and seeking power in traditionally masculine fields like law and publishing, Regine's career in fashion and girly interests are coded as inferior and further proof of her unlikability. Likewise, designing women's Suzanne Sugarbaker is constantly mocked, with most of the insults coming from her sister, Julia Sugarbaker, the queen archetype of the show, for her perceived shallowness and obsession with wealth. Not content to simply extinguish her appetite for money, the real-life weight gain of actress Delta Burke prompted a grown-up after-school special-like episode where Suzanne must face intense fat shaming at her high school reunion. There's a moral, kind of, to that episode. Being fat isn't as good as being thin, but if you're fat, people should not be overtly cruel to you. Kind of.
Suzanne, it's just human nature. People love to see beautiful women get old or fat.
All my life, I've had to fight my weight. I'll admit, food has been my security blanket, but also I just gain weight more easily than some people. Like you. You've always had that little tiny waist and those skinny legs. But I can't be that. And people have always tried to make me be that.
Suzanne, you're not alone. I'd be willing to bet most of the people in this country are overweight.
The point is, it's different for women, especially beautiful women.
These two characters in particular endure ridicule about their literal and figurative appetites on their shows, shining a light on how a woman's carnal desire for sustenance in any form is often seen as gluttonous. Standards of beauty and politeness are ultimately more about control. But even on television, the mark of the lover's quest for self-attainment peeks through. All feminine archetypes can be mapped according to certain psychological polarities: extroversion or introversion, feminine or masculine, and to a corresponding natural element: earth, air, water, or fire. The lover is extroverted, masculine, and represents the element of fire. As a masculine archetype, she is self-absorbed. Like the sage, who is also masculine and represents feminine independence, the lover is devoted to herself first and foremost. What may seem materialistic and self-serving, her desire for money, influence, power, and the good life are ultimately a reflection of how highly she views herself, and her absolute conviction that all that is sweet in life is her true birthright.
I love you too, Richard, but I love me more.
Stick around for the final part of this series, which will look at the mother of all feminine archetypes, the mother. Tell me what you think in the comments. What other television or film characters embody the lover? Where do you see the lover in myth, fables, or other stories? And be sure to check the description box for notes and references and further watching on feminine and masculine archetypes. Thanks for watching.